Hello, we are the Red River of the North group. I am Kira. The Red River of the North watershed is 288,000 square kilometers. It starts in South Dakota, where the Boise, DeSoy, and Otter Tail rivers meet. It then acts as a physical border between North Dakota and Minnesota and flows into Manitoba and ends in the Lake Winnipeg. Most of the annual flow comes from snowmelt in the spring and rainfall in the summer. Certain geological and physical features make the river very prone to flooding. Some of these features are the large flat floodplain caused by the glacial lake Agassiz. This lake lowered and leveled the ground, allowing for flood water to spread uninterrupted. It also means the river is very young, only 93,000 years old, so it has not yet formed a deep valley. Also, because the river flows north, the spring melt happens upstream first, while the downstream is still frozen, so the water is forced out of the river and onto the floodplain. The historical uses of the river include transportation, irrigation, as well as culturally significant historic settlements. The Red River is home to many First Nation groups, including the largest Métis settlement in Canada, the Red River Colony. This is also where the Red River Rebellion happened. The river was also important in the fur trade due to the river providing transportation of goods and was later used for crop irrigation on the fertile soil around it. Today, the river's primary use in irrigation, as 70% of the water's watershed is agricultural. Most of the water to irrigate is collected from underground aquifers. Other sectors of use include municipal, industrial, and recreational. For these purposes, water is mainly collected directly from the water surface and around major cities. Fargo and Grand Forks are some of the biggest municipal uses of water because the largest city on the river, Winnipeg, does not use water from the river. Most industrial uses of water are for processing foods like root vegetables or for cooling factories. Recreational activities on the river are done primarily in America and are mostly limited to fishing and boating. Since its settlement during the fur trade, the river's floods have been documented, with 1826, 1897, 1950, 1997, 2009, and 2011 being defined as the worst. In 1950, it flooded 14 square kilometers, and 70,000 people had to be evacuated from Winnipeg, and an estimated $900 million in damages was caused, as well as 8 people died as a result of the flood. It led to the development of the Red River Floodway in Winnipeg to prevent similar losses from floods. In 1997, another devastating flood happened, this one affecting Grand Forks the most. The city was evacuated and an estimated $3.8 billion in damages was caused, but no deaths were reported. In 2009-2011 were similar smaller floods, but still had devastating effects on Fargo and other cities along the river. Many evacuated and 7 total deaths were caused.
Hello, I'm Kaylee. Now I'll talk to you about some primary stakeholders. Fisheries in the Red River of the North Basin prioritize fish passage throughout the basin. This ensures the movement of fish to and from the places where they spawn and breed. Agriculturalists are a major stakeholder in this watershed as well, as much of the area surrounding the water bodies are used for agriculture. The intense flooding seen along the Red River has large impacts on farmers and can cause eutrophication when floodwaters recede. Many management agencies and boards are stakeholders in this watershed as well, and more will be said on these groups on the next slide. Recreationalists utilize the watershed for personal enjoyment, such as fishing, hiking, and canoeing. These groups seek management of the watershed that preserves the natural beauty it possesses. Indigenous communities prioritize the environment and practice stewardship to the land in the area surrounding the watershed. Their voice as a stakeholder is important in sustaining the basin now and into the future. Watershed management boards and agencies. There's quite a few of them, but these are the major four. And the Red River Watershed Management Board primarily focuses on the issues of flooding in the watershed. However, it focuses on these issues with a basin-wide approach instead of singular flooding events. The International Red River Board was created by the International Joint Commission to ensure environmental issues are considered when negotiating binational issues within the watershed. As the watershed exists in both Canada and the United States, this board's purpose is to help the International Joint Commission navigate any issues that arise between the two countries. The International Joint Commission was created between Canada and the United States to promote cooperation between the two countries concerning the use and management of the Red River of the North watershed. The two main purposes of this group are to approve projects impacting water level or flow and suggest solutions to binational issues in the watershed. The International Red River Watershed Board is one of three international watershed boards within the International Joint Commission. The primary purpose of this board is to assess water quality, water quantity, and the aquatic health of the watershed. Some stakeholder conflicts in the water body are between agriculturalists and fisheries and environmentalists. Agriculture practices have led to large nitrogen and phosphorus inputs into the water basin, leading to the eutrophication of Lake Winnipeg. This is of major concern to fisheries and environmentalists who wish to manage ecosystems for the benefit of the species living there. There have also been conflicts between flood mitigation and agriculture. Plans and projects to divert rivers around cities have many impacts on farming communities. Floodplains in agricultural lands will impact when farmers can begin seeding and could cause even greater eutrophication downstream when floods recede. Other conflicts are between environmentalists and economists, and these kinds arise specifically when analyzing wetland reconstruction. Though this process is beneficial to the environment, it is not always feasible. To society, the perceived benefit of recreating wetlands is not worth the economic investment it will take to accomplish it. International conflicts are also seen as a watershed exists in both the United States and Canada. However, water treaties and boards such as the Boundary Waters Treaty of 1909 help mitigate these issues.
I'm Karina, and this is the conflict resolution and current management in the watershed. So, to reiterate some of the ongoing challenges to management, ensuring all aspects of demand are considered, access to local and federal funding, maintaining the balance between nations and states. Then, two major ones are flooding and eutrophication, and how these can impact decision making in other aspects of the watershed as well. And then next up, we have some conflict resolution projects and plans. And these ones highlight the involvement of stakeholders during management, and they're mostly implemented by the Red River Basin Commission. So we have the Water Supply Working Group, which ensures education of issues within the watershed and promotes comprehensive and coordinated local plans. One Basin, One Governance seeks to highlight Indigenous issues within the watershed or within watershed governance, and then outside of just consultation. The Red River Basin River Watch provides educational opportunities for students regarding water resources and water choices, and they also have various monitoring opportunities as well. The Comprehensive Watershed Management Plan was developed to provide integrated stewardship plans to combine ecosystem health alongside economic usage. So, some environmental projects. These ones are also implemented by the Red River Basin Commission. So the Netley Marsh Renewal Project aims to restore the function of the wetland. And then the Supply Chain Soil Health Partnership is an initiative providing financial incentives for sustainable agriculture alongside a changing climate. Wastewater optimization is an educational opportunity to improve treatment systems and the removal of nutrients. So, a few of the major flood management projects include the Red River Floodway and the Portage Diversion, which are both diverting water to protect the city of Winnipeg and prevent flood damage. These have a few different criticisms, just basically with rural areas being more affected downstream. And I think this highlights the need for proper input and understanding the balance between the different sectors that are affected. Mitigation also takes other forms such as forecasting floods, encouraging proper land use, and then reservoirs and dams and smaller projects are common on the tributaries. Um, Floods in the environment. So environmental assessments prior to projects try to incorporate input from fisheries, soil scientists, and all other aspects, aiming to see all sides and maintain the middle ground between the different forces. So here it's social and or economic versus the environmental needs. And then for eutrophication management, we have the International Red River Watershed Board, who prepared a recommendation of long-term monitoring of nutrients for the assessment of rising levels. Similarly, the government of Manitoba set targets of nutrient concentrations for the same purpose. And the IJC's wastewater treatment project saw reduced nutrient pollution into the Red River. And there's a need to see this optimization completed in other places as it was showed to be pretty effective. Overall, in terms of major management practices, they just need an actually implemented transboundary comprehensive strategy to address the upstream and downstream impacts, especially regarding eutrophication.
I'm Abigail, and I'm going to talk about some ongoing and future projects. First, we have the waffle method. It was first thought up at the University of North Dakota in the 90s, and the idea is that just like syrup into the squares of waffles, roads create levees, and water is temporarily stored in farmers' fields until the flood recedes. So there's quite a bit of funding that's went into testing the feasibility of this. One study from 2002 to 2006 found that it is in fact a feasible strategy for flood mitigation, economically speaking. It also found other environmental benefits, such as recharge of groundwater. And one thing that it does really well is reduce overland runoff, which is something that other flood mitigation techniques fail to do. And this study highlighted that it's a good tool for basin-wide management. So, a few next steps here for the waffle method. They've kind of lost funding and support in recent years, so they need to resecure funding. One big critique of it was that it didn't address agricultural impacts of having water stored on the fields. So this also needs to be looked into further. And then they talk about whole watershed cooperation. So they need multiple stakeholders and partners working together. Another project that is currently in development is the Fargo-Moorhead Area Diversion, which is happening in North Dakota. So it's a huge project that's going to cost over $3 billion, and it's set to be complete in 2027. It's going to impact 260,000 people and 30 miles long. So it's going to be good. It's going to create a lot of jobs, but there's a few things that they need to work on. Firstly, they need to monitor environmental impacts. So there's been environmental impact assessments done that highlight concerns for riparian habitat and also fish migration patterns. So as the project continues, there needs to be long-term monitoring of this to see if it's going to be an even bigger problem. They also need to work with stakeholder groups. So, for example, they could offer no-cost insurance programs for farmers who are going to be impacted by the project. So moving on, we're just going to talk about some overall next steps for the watershed as a whole. First, we want to synthesize projects across jurisdictions. So there's a lot of different groups in different areas that are working towards similar goals. And if they work together, they would be more efficient and effective. Secondly, we're going to promote best agricultural practices and monitor FOSS levels so we can keep an eye on eutrophication and make sure it's not getting worse. And then number three, you want to maintain existing flood infrastructure and investigate new mitigation methods that might have reduced socioeconomic or environmental impacts. So that's all we have to say for the Red River of the North Watershed.